Shabbat Shalom. This week's Torah portion deals with war, and how sad that we, the state of Israel, again and again are engaged in territorial conflicts. Nowadays, especially in Gaza. Again and again, history repeats itself, and we find ourselves with a sword drawn, with a rifle in hand, with the intent of defending the citizens of Israel. The security of the state of Israel is based on one chief principle: preserving the existence of the state of Israel, which means that Israel refuses at all costs to lose a war, because failure to stop the existing threats against Israel means the destruction of the state of Israel. Our parasha touches on the darker sides of warfare: killing, looting, assassination, collective punishment, in short, a raging fire. The 3-week period of Bein HaMetzarim, in English, the dire straits, begins with the day that the walls of Jerusalem were breached until the fast of Tisha B'Av, the day the temple was destroyed. These days mark the days of tribulation and distress associated with the destruction of the first and second temples. According to tradition, this is a time when the laws of mourning apply, and they become more and more strict as we approach Tisha B'Av. On the 3 Shabbats of the dire straits, Bein HaMetzarim, we read the 3 Haftarot, the weekly readings from the prophets that deal with tribulations and punishments that will come about due to the sins of the people. And after Tisha B'Av, in the next 7 Shabbats, we read Haftarot that have a theme of comfort and forgiveness. The days of dire straits commemorate the destruction of the temple and the exiles of the people of Israel. This week's parasha, Parashat Matot, always falls during this period of the dire straits, Bein HaMetzarim. It emphasizes the contrast between promises, hope, our land and home, and between destruction, exile, and the hiding of God's face from us. Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. "Do you see all these things?" he asked. "Truly, I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." In these weeks, we begin to think and talk about Tisha B'Av, about the meaning of this day, about the destruction. But it's very difficult to internalize and mourn the destruction of Jerusalem, which happened thousands of years ago, when today we are surrounded by a sizable, blooming, vibrant, and calibrated city. The request for us to continue to remember the past is for many reasons. First and foremost, to continue our existence, to continue life, to always stand on our own, to not allow anyone to hurt us anymore. Remembrance is essential to our continued existence as a people. Remembrance is essential for the rehabilitation and building of a country in a physical and spiritual way. Remembrance is important to bring about change. Having foresight doesn't necessarily mean having the gift of prophecy, but rather it means the ability to look at the past and present and then foresee what will happen in the future. The lesson of the people of Israel for generations is that there is always hope. The hope for salvation, the hope for redemption, for returning home from afar, from punishment to forgiveness and consolation. And today, we're waiting for his face to be revealed, for the day when the people of Israel will proclaim, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," and kneel before Yeshua the Messiah. I believe with all my heart that God has not abandoned his people, and Yeshua continues to lead the people of Israel, even if we don't realize it yet. Yeshua is the one who leads us, and time again saves the state of Israel. The day will come when the veil will be removed, and the people of Israel will accept him as he is, as the Messiah, King of Israel. Another hot topic in the national arena, the matter that threatens even to topple the government, is the issue of recruiting Orthodox Jews, Haredim, into the Israeli military. The Haredim who want their young men to spend these potential military years studying the Torah instead, they cry out. They want to kill us. The Torah is our life. This is a battle of life and death. Where does the Torah student get his excuse not to serve in the army? Is it from the Torah? The argument that the Torah student should refuse to enlist in the IDF is very weak, because the Torah encourages and possibly even demands military service. The book of Torah that we have been studying for the past few weeks, Numbers, begins with a requirement for a military census of the tribes. You and Aaron are to count according to their divisions all the men in Israel who are 20 years old or more and able to serve in the army. In Deuteronomy, there's a list of reasons for exemption from the military service, like the building of a new house or getting married, etc. Should be noted that studying Torah is not one of these reasons. It appears in Deuteronomy chapter 20, verses 5 through 8. In our parasha, the tribes of Gad and Reuven see the richness and greenery beyond the Jordan River, and they ask permission from Moses to settle there and not to enter into the promised land. At first, Moses is angry with them because he senses a hint of the previous rebellion of the spies who rejected the promised land. Moses attacked them with a rhetorical question: should your fellow Israelites go to war while you sit here? Only after the tribes of Dan and Reuven promised to enlist in the frontline forces, in the commandos, in the special forces, for the purpose of conquering the promised land, Moses comes down and allows them to settle across the Jordan River. From here, I want to continue to the context of Messianic faith in Israel. Opinions differ regarding enlistment in the military, but amongst Messianic believers in Israel, there is a majority that enlists, and do so with pride, even though the question of military ethics arises from time to time. Some believers encourage enlistment, but not to combat unit, because Yeshua commands us to treat our enemy with love. And according to them, Yeshua spoke against holding a sword. In other words, he spoke against the possession of arms. In my opinion, I'll say that precisely those God-fearing, believing soldiers who serve in combat, right in the flashpoints of military conflict, are the ones who can show love. They can show care, mercy, through simple acts of kindness, which are expected anyways as part of the Israeli military protocol. Believing soldiers show how it is possible to maintain both security and humane treatment at the same time. The Messianic soldiers show the glory of the state of Israel. Let us return to this week's parasha and to the Transjordan question of the previously mentioned tribes of Reuven and Gad. The leaders of the tribes of Reuven and Gad went to Moses and asked for the Transjordan. Why did they want this? Because they had large herds of livestock. And we read that the land across the Jordan was rich and green. And they said the following: we would like to build pens here for our livestock, and cities for our women and children. The emphasis here is on building business, the business of livestock. In the response that Moses gives, he switches up the order of things. Moses says, build cities for your women and children, and pens for your flocks. Moses starts with the word build, first and foremost, which refers to children and family. And then afterwards comes work. Today's world, we are in the same story. We spend so much time at work, we hardly see our children. We often have no idea what's going on in their schools. We don't have the time to hear about our children's dreams, hopes, and ideas. We come home dead tired every day, without the energy for relaxed conversation. The tribes of Reuven and Gad had much livestock. The land beyond the Jordan was pleasing to them. They asked Moses for the permission to settle there. And during the negotiations, the words slipped out. We'll build animal pens for business, and then we'll build the rest, like homes for our families. Career is for the family and not the other way around. We too often forget that what matters the most takes time and think that it cannot compete with paying the bills, electricity, property tax, rent, or mortgage. These may seem much more critical than playing with Legos or having a good conversation, but they're not. When we retire, it will be too late. If we do not invest in the family, that ship will sink. Now, I do not recommend simply dropping out of life's race, but rather changing our priorities and putting the family back at the top. Shabbat Shalom.